Hello again, Pilgrim School students, family, and friends tuning in. It's about half an hour after I just read the Lorax, if you've seen that. And I just wanted to tell you that 13 years ago, I challenged my students when I worked at Third Street School to create characters that might come back after the trophula seed found a new home, like not the Barbaloots, but different characters, and think of some new things and what their names might be. Just like I asked you to create a friend who spoke for something at the end of Dr. Seuss, and I thought to myself, what would a sequel to the Lorax look like, or what would it? Could I write something that would be interesting? And so, 13 years ago, in 2007, I decided to write my version of a sequel of the Lorax. It's called Why the Lorax Came Back. So you don't have to imagine, you'll have to use your own imagination for pictures, because obviously it looks like this, where I typed it. And then when I was reading it today, this is what happened. You can see I started writing a bit more of it and crossed out a whole bunch of stuff, and all in my purple pen. And I'm going to read it to you now. Why the Lorax Came Back. Remember that at the end of the first story, the Onceler has thrown down the seed and said, go off and do something with it, plant it and take care of it and grow a new tree. So here's what my version of that would look like. So I had the one seed, the one trophula seed. He trusted it into my care and challenged me to see what I could do, to see what I was willing to dare. It took a long time for me to feel brave to try and repair what was done. I knew I'd need help from a lot of my friends, with all of us working as one. I nurtured the seed for many a year as I searched all around for a spot. It had to be perfect, it had to be right, for on it was resting a lot. I walked far and wide, travelled many a mile, made lots of great friends on the way. They'd heard of the plight of the Lorax and hoped he would come back someday. The trophula tree was extinct, they had heard. Could it possibly really be true that someone could plant one and let it grow tall? That would be worth seeing through. I trudged through the sand, seeing many a land of creatures unusual and strange. The boldy wong-knuckle, the blang and the bling, and the sharp-crested flangular mange. They all were delighted to hear of my quest to find a spectacular place where the trophula seed would find the right home, ready to soar into space. Before I knew it, I had walked 15 years and grown into quite a young man, when I stumbled upon the most wonderful spot that was marked by a rusty tin can. There was nothing around but the earth and the sky, nothing to stand in the way, and a small little pond sitting silently by seemed to know just the right thing to say. Across from the pond was the stump of a tree. I think I had seen it before. Perhaps I had come to scene of the crime, and now it was time to restore. So I dug a deep hole down into the ground and lovingly placed in the seed, and wished upon wish that there'd never again be any more use for a thneed. I know that the Onceler would be hoping so too. I think his lesson was learned, and he was repenting the damage he caused, and forgiveness just might have been earned. I patted the ground and marked where it sat with a stick from a gangaroon tree, and I sat and I waited for something to happen till almost 2:45. I didn't see sprouting, I didn't see roots, until something amazing occurred. A sky full of rain clouds came galloping in, and soon booming thunder was heard. The rain started sprinkling, the water came down, the soil started coming to life, and one lonely shoot sprung up out of the ground, despite all its trouble and strife. I couldn't contain it, I leaped up and down. The trophula tree was reborn. But what of the Lorax? Just what would it take to usher in a new dawn? I gathered my friends, called the Blang and the Bling, who brought along the Gelurdle, and we all got to work, planting all sorts of things. We had conquered a difficult hurdle. Pretty soon other things began to appear that had not been present before. This greener come cleaner activity had creatures now searching for more. The word was now travelling far across town. An oasis had sprung up nearby, and into the shade of the truffula tree came a sight to make us all cry. Tears of great happiness, not tears of doom, tears of joy for a much better place. For there on the stump was the Lorax, with a great beaming smile on his face. And he said in a voice that was hopeful, "You did it. You cared for the seed. You've given me faith. There's no need for unless, as long as we all now take heed. And learn that there's no need for biggering, and no need for axes that hack. Making less glup and causing less schlop will allow all of the life to come back." That's it. That's what I decided might make a good story. You can give it a thumbs up or a sideways or a down, but maybe you could think of how you might draw him planting, how you might illustrate that, how you might pick a part of it and illustrate him planting the seed, his new friends named the Gelurdle or the sharp-crested flangular mange, the boldy wong knuckle. What does that look like? Isn't it great about Dr. Seuss and paying homage to Dr. Seuss that you can think of all kinds of ridiculously silly names for things? But yeah, that's a challenge for you, Pilgrim School students and anyone else who might want to do it. What do any of those things look like? Pick a part of it, illustrate a page, and when we come back to school, you can share that with me, and I'll give you obviously one of my usual fabulous pencils with erasers, and maybe we'll find a prize for you for the best one. We'll have a little contest. Anyway, there you go, just putting it out there. Why the Lorax came back. Maybe you could think of a better title for me. Anyway, hope all's well. See you soon.